Hi, welcome to Shmirchik, Fetcher's Corner, where you'll experience all the unpleasantness that comes with me. So, I was thinking to read different things, right? I'm debating whether to read the novel written by Salmon Rushdie, who is a novelist, a writer, an author, and he made a book on Islam, right, called The Satanic Verses. And I'm thinking whether to read it on this channel or my book reading channel, because both channels are pretty much for learning and reading, but this one's more for fetching. And so today's January 6th, 2025, and just another day of terrorism and Nazism on the part of Islamofascists who choose to attack Jewish civilians, Jewish people, driving to and from their homes. And so today, 3 Jewish people were murdered in the West Bank, right, where I live. And it's really scary and it's tragic. And so let's go and understand what is terrorism, right? Terrorism is when you terrorize people who are not part of any, military group, and you go after people who are just going about their day, minding their own business, and you go and you murder them just because of who they are for some sort of theology, right? For some sort of ideology. And that is what Islamic fascists like to do to Jews, because they believe in killing the Yahuds, which they're not shy to say. And so let's go and read what happened today. Okay, so retired educators and police officer identified as victims of the West Bank terrorist attack. Eliza Rice and Rachel Cohen, both from the settlement of Kidumim, worked as school counselors before retirement. Master Sergeant Elad Yaakov Winkelstein fired shots at terrorists before being fatally hit in front of his son. Israeli authorities identified 3 victims of Monday's terror attack near the West Bank settlement of Kidumim. Master Sergeant Elad Yaakov Winkelstein, 36, and retired educators Rachel Cohen, 73, and Eliza Rice, 69. So an educator was killed, and just people going, like grandparents getting murdered just as they go about their day for the fact that they're Jewish living in Israel. And that's somehow offensive to the Islamofascists who don't want Jews living on this earth, right? And so the attack occurred on Highway 55, where a terrorist squad opened fire on a bus and private vehicles before fleeing. A manhunt for the attackers is going on, right? So they're looking for the attackers, which they will be found because the Arabs are sellouts and they will sell their mother for money. And so that's part of their sick, perverted culture. Cohen and Rice, both Kidumim residents, were deeply involved in their community. Cohen, a retired school counselor, is survived by her husband and 5 daughters. Her daughter Naomi describes her as a joyful and a giving person, God-fearing and a beloved grandmother. She was our go-to for everything, a loving mother and wife. Naomi highlighted her mother's dedication to helping young people and her unwavering positivity. So this is talking about Cohen, right? And she is in the middle picture. I'm not sure if you can see. She's in the picture in the middle, and Eliza's on the left. Eliza Rice is on the left. Cohen is in the middle. And she has a family, and now, because of some jihadi, evil bastard, her family has to live without her. And it looks like this man here on the right was a former police officer. Rice, who worked as a school counselor in the settlement of Karnei Shamron, was set to celebrate her 70th birthday next week. Her son Yair called her larger than life, praising her determination and resilience. At 40, she went to university, and nothing stopped her. She was among the founders of Kidumim and thought of others above all else, Yair said. Winkelstein, a police officer, is survived. Okay, so he is a police officer. Is survived by his wife and 2 children. His son, who was in the car with him during the attack, witnessed his father fire at the assailants before being fatally shot in the head. So it's really scary because this is the reality of living in Israel, is that every single day, like every single person has somebody they know who has been murdered by a terrorist. Every single person has, almost every family in Israel has someone they know that was murdered by a terrorist, or they have people in their family that were killed by murdering Islamic fascists, right? And so that's just the reality of living within Israel, especially because it's a very small country and we are surrounded by enemies. Right, so there's ads, of course. So it looks like the terrorist is going to start firing. Terrorist launches deadly shooting attack on Monday. I don't see what's happening here.
المحاكم אנחנו צריכים תחנות שנמצאת מאחורי היונדאי. שם תראה את המצעים.
I don't know what we're watching. Okay, so there goes the terrorist, right? He turns around, he has a gun, this guy, fascist, Nazi, trying to murder Jews, has a gun and he starts firing at the car of Jewish people inside. And the Jewish guy who has a gun, fires back, but then he gets shot in the head by a terrorist scum piece of shit, right? I'm not sure I'm understanding what I'm seeing in this video, right? Security officials said initial investigations indicate the attack was carried out by a three-member squad. Okay, so this is a car with the terrorists in it, two of whom are known to Israeli forces and are from Jenin and Kabatia areas. The attackers reportedly lay in wait for an opportune moment and fired on passing vehicles. Officials said there were no prior indications of an imminent attack. Right, so this is who the Islamic fascists are that we're dealing with, right? This is, there's a bullet hole in the windshield of a car. Bullet holes in the windshield after a deadly terror attack, right? And so, you never ever see Jewish people with guns going after Islamic fascists and going after women and children and men innocently just driving by minding their own business. You never see Jewish people go after them like that and murder innocent people. It never happens. But the Islamic fascists, they seem to, it's their way. That's their trend, right? That's their fashion. Their fashion is murder. And like we see what happened in New Orleans, right? Was it in New Orleans? Where was it that there was that recent terror attack in America where 10 people were murdered, right? It's the Islamic fascist way, you know? And so a deep look into list of hostages to be freed. Egypt has no trust in new Syrian regime. Europe's concern over immigrant violence. Fuck the Jews. Anti-Semitic slogan in Sydney. What's new, right? Like, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese condemns the incident. There's no tolerance for anti-Semitism in Australia. Such acts targeting people for who they are betray the values I and the vast majority of Australians hold dear. An anti-Semitic slur was spray painted on a car in an area of eastern Sydney, known for its diverse community, triggering widespread condemnation across Australia. The incident, which occurred in Queen's Park on Henry Street, has left the local Jewish community reeling. Notably, the car's owner, Stuart Barron, is not Jewish. The anti-Semitic slogan that was sprayed on a vehicle. Vandals, right? Let me check if this is working. Understand what is... It's working. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese condemned the incident, saying, "There is no tolerance for anti-Semitism in Australia. For my government, nor should there be any tolerance from anyone else. Anti-Semitism is a scourge, and any event such as this, targeting people because of who they are, is not the Australian values that I hold dear, and the Australian values that are held dear by overwhelmingly Australians." Okay, so people are describing the graffiti as madness, disgusting, blah blah blah, but it's tolerated, so okay. U.S. to ease Syria sanctions. Blinken to discuss Syrian future. Seriously? This guy, right, this so-called rebel leader, was once part of ISIS, and he probably chopped people's heads off and stuff. And he's a new leader that's going to get respect from the international community. How embarrassing. Right? Syrian women journalists are in the field, documenting whatever, okay? Right, so... let's see what this lady says. Syrian activist predicts Iran's regime will fall next. Syrian-born activist Rawan Asman it is the beginning of a new Middle East. The Iranian regime will be the next to fall now that Assad's regime in Syria has been dismantled, according to Syrian-born activist Rawan Asman. So let's see what she says, shall we? Ads and more ads.
Much for being here today. Now, Rowan, I want to start with you. You know, you went from being an anti-Semite to someone who actually defends the state of Israel and the Jewish people. This really is like a tremendous amount of change. And I'm wondering if you could talk just a little bit about your personal journey and how it influences your perspective on what's happening today in Syria, the rebels, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, but also the chance then for a new future. How should people view the developments that are happening in Syria today?
Thank you for having me. First of all, it's no secret that we are brainwashed in the region. I grew up in Lebanon. I was a fan of Hezbollah. I grew up, you know, like we recovered from teenage, and I realized that the Jews are not the enemy. Israel is definitely not the enemy. When people thank me and think I'm an extraordinary person, I always remind them I'm not special. I can afford speaking up, being vocal in my support for Israel, but many can't because they were terrified of al-Assad regime arresting their mother or torturing their brother. People are afraid if they have a granddad in Tehran. I am in this position, but believe me, many do think like I do. They realize that the axis of resistance, the axis of evil led by Iran, is the enemy of the people in the region. What's happening in Syria is promising. That is not to say I'm fond of Islamists, but the fall of Assad was very, very important. Since then, I'd like to share this with your viewers. I built a TikTok account where I post only in Arabic, wearing my Star of David, speaking about peace with Israel. And I can see in the video insights where people write to me, and they are mostly in Syria, in Lebanon, in Turkey, in Saudi Arabia, and they want peace with Israel. They want to get rid of the acts of resistance. They are even grateful for Israel, even if Israel did not initiate this change. Thanks to Israel, beaten Hezbollah up in Lebanon, the rebels could get rid of Assad. Give them a chance. It's a transitional period. The demilitarization of Syria, was very important. God knows who's trying to seize what. We have chemical weapons. Forget that. Syria has antiquities. There are criminals. Nobody's controlling the borders. It is important that it's demilitarized. Now it's time to build a state. If the jihadists surprise us, they can all be in the same place with their leader Al-Jolani. We can handle the situation if a military action is required. But so far what's happening is very important, and more people will follow in my footsteps, and it is the beginning of a new Middle East.
Wow, and to think about a new Middle East, right before October 7th, we were really on the cusp, or at least we thought we were on the cusp of peace with Saudi Arabia. And then, of course, the October 7th massacre occurred.
This lady's voice doesn't match her.
We are now 15 months after that massacre, and about 16 months from that final discussion of peace that was outwardly, public. Asher, what are the prospects for peace with Saudi Arabia today? What do you feel is going to happen, let's say, after Trump takes office on the 20th?
The underlying logic for peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia very much still exists. The economic logic, the innovation logic, the defense logic, the common enemies, the shared aspirations for a future of stability and prosperity. We do have to take into account that October 7th, on the one hand, led to the downfall both of the Iranian access, of the Hamas.
Okay, very nice. Let's go see this guy. U.S. to ease Syria sanctions. Move expected to ease supply of basic assistance to Damascus. West cautious. The West is cautious, hoping for greater stability in Syria, a decade after the war triggered a major refugee crisis that shook up European politics. The Biden administration plans to announce Monday that it will ease restrictions on humanitarian aid for Syria, speeding delivery for basic supplies without lifting sanctions that restrict other assistance to the new government in Damascus, the Wall Street Journal reported on Sunday. The step, approved by the administration over the weekend, authorizes the Treasury Department to issue waivers to aid groups and companies providing essentials such as water, electricity, and other humanitarian supplies. The WSJ reported, citing officials. It's wild to me that the U.S. is so involved with giving aid to everybody else when literally we just had in the U.S. there was a hurricane and there was no help for the people who were hit by this hurricane, and they got each $700. People that lost their homes got $700, and that's it. But the U.S. is helping everybody else, but not their own. It's an embarrassment. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will meet his European counterparts Thursday in Rome on Syria. As the West looks to engage the new Islamist-led leadership, the State Department did not immediately specify the participants. Blinken on a trip will also take him to Japan. And France will later join President Biden as he pays a farewell visit to Rome that includes an audience with Pope Francis. So this cutthroat, right? This guy who's now the leader of Syria, right? This cutthroat who probably chopped people's head off, many people. Now he is going to be trying to be like a diplomat. It's embarrassing that the world accepts this, right? Islamist-led forces toppled longtime ruler Bashar Assad in a lightning offensive last month after 13 years of brutal war. Western powers have since been cautiously hoping for greater stability in Syria, a decade after the war triggered a major refugee crisis that shook up European politics. The French and German foreign ministers on Friday visited Syria. Although the trip was overshadowed when new leader Ahmad al-Shara shook the hand only of France's Jean-Noël Barrot, a man, and not Germany's Annalena Baerbock, a woman. Right, so he's basically this is who he is, this guy who's the leader of Syria now, right? This is who he is. He's a jihadi religious, he's a religious person. He's a religious jihadi. He's formerly from ISIS, right? He's not going to act like a normal person. Okay, granted that, it's in their religion that they can't touch women, but come on, right? You're the leader. I don't understand it. Is Saudi Arabia like that? Do the Saudi Arabians shake hands with world leaders? He claims it's out of respect, but it's more out of, the fact that she's standing there without a hijab, it's more like an offense to the jihadis, right? Women have to be covered from head to toe, like in the Taliban. Senior U.S. diplomat Barbara Leaf met Sha'ara last month and said, it's so funny because, he's a jihadi, right? So according to the jihadis, they can, when they go to war, they can chop people's heads off and they can steal people's wives. They can take the wives of those that they killed, right? They can take sex slaves, they can fuck them, they can rape them, but he can't shake the hand of a woman, a regular woman, that's just in front of him, that's a diplomat. He can't shake her hand, but he can go and rape sex slaves. Like, that's the mentality of these jihadis, and it's so embarrassing that this type of behavior is acceptable. Oh, I can't touch women, but yet he has sex slaves at home, and he's like raping little girls, you know? Allegedly. Senior U.S. diplomat Barbara Leaf met Shara last month and said that the United States was lifting a bounty that has been on his head. Seriously? Obviously, they have a bounty on his head for a reason, right? Like, he shouldn't be allowed to be in that position. He should be taken out. Because he's a murderer. A terrorist. She also welcomed positive messages he has made, including on protection of minorities, and said he has promised that Syria will not pose a threat to neighboring countries as Israel pounds Syrian military sites. Right, like you're gonna believe that. Unbelievable. This is like the element of hypocrisy has reached new heights. So he can go home to his concubines and his wives and his sex slaves, and he can fuck them and he can touch them and he can rape them, but he can't touch a normal woman. That's not part of his harem. You know what I'm saying? Like, the height of hypocrisy is it shouldn't be acceptable. So it looks like he's not wearing the Taliban-y clothes, so now he's trying to, like a lot of people are saying, he's trying to clean up his image, wearing a suit, trying to look like a Westerner. It's so the hypocrisy is disgusting, right? The jihadis, their hypocrisy is sick, evil. Okay, so that's that, right? Okay, let's go here and see. Gazan rockets trigger sirens in Sderot, southern Israel. Right, so basically, oh, the poor Gazans. Oh, Hamas is so weak. Oh my gosh. And a year after the war started, they're so weak, right, and oppressed that they're still pounding Israel with rockets coming in from Gaza, right? After 14 months of war. Gazan rockets trigger sirens, right? A list of 34 hostages allegedly submitted by Israel was approved by Hamas. And the terror group said, although Israel denied the report, alleged Israeli hostage list leak sparked rebuke from families. 3 killed, 8 wounded in the West Bank shooting attack, right? I live here in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, so it could happen to anybody. These terrorists, they just want to do, like, down with everybody, so, right? See if it's still working. Wow. Medical teams pronounced them dead at the scene, with 8 other people hurt in the attack. A 63-year-old man was seriously wounded. A woman is in moderate condition, and 5 others are in mild condition. The 2 murdered women were riding in one of the cars that were hit, while the man who was murdered was driving his car and apparently deviated from his route because of the shooting. The victims were later identified as Elad Yaakov Winkelstein, Rachel Cohen, and Eliza Rice. A terror organization naming itself Galilee Forces, Lone Wolves, took responsibility for the attack, which Hamas praised. Resistance in the West Bank continues despite the occupation's repression and intensification of security measures, the new group said in a statement calling for further escalation. The organization published a video under the title How the Operation in Kfar Funduk was carried out, an illustration that teaches about prior preparation and the training of the attack. So this is who they are at war with. They are at war with innocent, helpless civilians. They're at war with babies. They're at war with women. This is jihadi Islam, right? And that's who they're at war with. Why? Because they are lunatics, they're insane, they're weak, and they're cowardly. Because that's the only people they can fight with, is people who are weaker than them. They can't fight anybody that's equal to them or stronger than them, because they are cowards. That's why they put bullets in babies' heads and chop their heads off. I just found out yesterday that 600 out of the 1,200 people who were murdered on October 7, their heads were chopped off by Hamas and by the so-called civilians that came in on October 7 into Israel. And so, yeah, they're barbarians. The heroes of the West Bank prove again that they are at the heart of the battle of Al-Aqsa, and that all attempts of the occupation to break them or to stop them from supporting Gaza are doomed to fail. With this attitude, right, they are clearly the enemy, and they are clearly, they're showing their face for who they are. So I don't understand why Israel doesn't just take chairs out of the airplanes, right? Go collect all those people, terrorists in the West Bank, right? All these people from this group and their families and their children. You take them and you put them into a airplane, and you send them to Uganda or to the Congo, and you drop them off there. Give them some money. They don't deserve it, but leave them with some water. Put them in Congo, somewhere in the Amazon. We don't know. That's where they belong. They don't belong here. Right, so Shem Mishmar, right? Israel is willing to allow Hamas to remain in Gaza if it disarms. That's crazy. Okay. Israel makes contact in Iraq to release kidnapped Israeli. What was she doing there? An Iraqi political source confirmed communications between a Western diplomatic team and local parties to handle the case of the Israeli abducted in Iraq. Oh my God. The Emirati newspaper Arab News said on Sunday that a Western diplomatic team and local Iraqi parties are in continuous contact to find a solution to the Elizabeth Surkov's case, an Israeli kidnapped last year in Iraq. Contacts are being conducted by a team from several countries under the protection and coordination of an international coalition in an informal manner, with Iraqi parties participating in the political process in an effort to revive the negotiations regarding the Israeli abduction, the source said. So why is it that all these terrorists say all they're good at is kidnapping defenseless people and putting bullets in babies' heads? Why is that what they do? Why is it that that's all they're good for? In an effort to revive the negotiations regarding the Israeli abduction, the source said, he added that Surkov was kidnapped by local armed groups, and there's no communication between the international team and this group, except through intermediaries. Negotiations are in the early stages, the source said, and nothing is known yet about the status, including whether she is alive. Last Thursday, right, Hebrew Channel said that Israeli officials have made contact through a third party in recent months for the release of Surkov. Surkov arrived in Iraq as a researcher, and she was kidnapped in 2023 by the Iranian-backed terror organization Kataib Hezbollah. I don't understand why people go there. I don't get it. Don't go there. An Israeli doing research in Iraq, somebody says. And her picture shows her smiling in Turkey. She really must be a genius to go to Iraq. People are saying, I don't know. I don't know why people go there. It's horrible. Maybe there's another reason she went there. We don't know, right? So, Israel's preparing to remain in Lebanon. We saw that. China's helping Houthis obtain weapons for unmolested Red Sea passage. Oh my God, there's so much happening, right? Putin apologizes over tragic incident with his Azerbaijan Airlines crash. What? What happened here? Flight J28243 crashed on Wednesday in Kazakhstan after diverting from southern Russia, where Ukrainian drones were reported to be attacking several cities. What happened? Russian leader Vladimir Putin on Saturday apologized to Azerbaijan President Ilham Aliyev for what he said represented a tragic incident in Russian airspace involving an Azerbaijan Airlines passenger plane that crashed on Wednesday. Wow, that's crazy. Flight J28243 crashed in a bowl of fire near the city of Aktu in Kazakhstan after diverting from southern Russia, where Ukrainian drones were reported to be attacking several cities. At least 38 people died. They were killed while 29 survived. How did anyone survive? That's wild. Right? Rough. So, Vladimir Putin apologized for the tragic incident that occurred in Russian airspace and once again expressed his deep and sincere condolences to the families of the victims and wished a speedy recovery to the injured, the Kremlin said in a statement. It was noted in the conversation that the Azerbaijani passenger aircraft, which was traveling according to its schedule, repeatedly tried to land at Grozny airport. At that time, Grozny, Mozdok, and Vladikavkaz were being attacked by Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles, and Russian air defense systems repelled these attacks, the Kremlin said. So, oh my god. Somebody said sorry, not sorry. Like, oh my god. Like, this is one of the reasons I don't want to travel now in this time, because I don't like to travel. I don't want to, unless it's El Al, but even so, you know, like, in a time of war, anything can happen. Like, why are people traveling to war-torn countries? Why would anybody from Azerbaijan... Well, I guess there could be Russians that were in Azerbaijan for business or whatever, so... Right? But, like... I don't want to, like, travel at a time like this when, you know, Israel's airspace every day, there's, like, rockets coming in from the Houthis, from Yemen, from... Hezbollah was shooting rockets, right? And it's not a good time to travel. Okay, 2 U.S. Navy pilots shot down in a friendly fire incident over the Red Sea. What? Houthis claim counterattack on U.S. Navy successfully downed an F-18. The U.S. Central Command said that 2 Navy pilots had been shot down in the friendly fire incident over the Red Sea on Sunday. The F-18 pilots were recovered alive after ejecting, with one suffering slight injuries. The guided missile cruiser USS Gettysburg, which is part of the USS Harry S. Truman Carrier Strike Group, mistakenly fired on and hit the F-18, CENTCOM said in a statement. This comes as the Navy shot down numerous Houthi drones and targeted the vessels after widespread U.S. attacks against Houthis targets in Yemen. The Houthis stated that they have successfully attacked the U.S. forces with 8 cruise missiles and 17 drones, claiming that the downing of the F-18 was due to their operation. Okay. Well, at least no one died, so... Right? Thank God for that. Let's see what else there is. Houthis, not just an Israeli problem. Jihadis groups former... Okay, Houthis are not just Israel's problem. Jihadist group's former spokesman tells I-24 News. Okay. What's with this?
You got over on me. Yeah.
Oof. So loud.
No one gets over on me. You're gonna rob that place.
And focused on it and bring you any updates as they occur. The Houthis, as we mentioned, they are the most potent, really only active remaining regional proxy in the so-called axis of resistance from Iran at this point. The group launched more than 300 long-range drones and missiles at Israel, all since the notorious October 7th. And among Israeli leadership, some say Israel should target Iran directly in response. And our next correspondent, Ariel Surat, spoke to the former spokesman of the Houthis earlier this week. Here's some of their interview.
علي البخيتي الناطق السابق للحوثيين السلام عليكم ومرحبا بك.
أهلا وسهلا.
الهجمات من قبل الحوثيين ضد إسرائيل أصبحت حدثا يوميا. كيف تنظر التطورات الأخيرة في الصراع بين إسرائيل والحوثيين؟
مثل هذا الإطار إيران حليف قوي يمكن أن تضغط به على إلى إيران عبر
This creepy old men. Creepy old men. Creepy old jihadi men, right? Okay, let's go see international. International news. U.S. marks 4 years since bloody January 6th riot as Trump set to take office. Trump names Morgan Ortegos as Deputy Mideast Peace Envoy. Okay, let's go see. What else is there? Zelensky lights menorah with rabbis in bunker amid threat of Russian attack. What? Preparations were made while remaining vigilant with respect to security concerns. This is so funny because, you know, Zelensky, he was once a dancer and actor. Okay. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky joined Chabad emissaries and rabbis to light the menorah on Wednesday in the presidential bunker. Organized by the Federation of Jewish Communities of Ukraine, preparations were made while remaining vigilant with respect to security concerns. How did they do that? Like, the ceremony came as Russia launched hundreds of missiles and drones at any energy infrastructure throughout the country. Participation was limited over fears of safety amid the attack. Oh boy. What is this? What? The video has no sound. Okay. Let's go and see this. Daily Express. U.S. Daily Express. Golden Globe 2025. Inside the night's wildest moments. From a wicked award snub to tasteless ditty joke. I don't know why these people, like, Hollywood has lost its glamour and its allure, right? Like, they're all, like, they're both pretty ugly. Pretty plain and pretty ugly, right? With Golden Globes 2025 now officially behind us, fans are still buzzing about some of the most memorable moments for the night. Okay, who's this? Zendaya. Okay, very nice. Nikki Glazer, whoever that is. Okay, nice sparkly dress. Kathy Bates. Who are all these people? Jodie Foster sparked fury over robbing another actress of a win fans felt she deserved. Washed up old loser celebrities. Irrelevant loser boring celebrities. Okay, let's go here. Kathy Bates sparks fan concern for health after she seems shaky at the Golden Globes. I don't care. Jailing of far-right activist Tommy Robinson and center of Elon Musk and Nigel Farage rift. Okay, so it looks like 2 Russian colonels assassinated as Ukraine launches staggering counterattack. The Ukrainian forces started a surprising group offense against Russia in August in the Kursk region, but then began to lose ground after Russia deployed up to 12,000 North Korean troops in the region. Chilling video released of New Orleans terrorist wearing meta glasses as he cased area. Okay. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle branded biggest Hollywood losers by Showbiz Bible. Okay, Meghan Markle is all smiles in radiant new photo with friend after huge Netflix news. Okay, so that's that. Woman 22 dies in elephant attack while bathing in Thailand. Vladimir Putin told exactly where to go in Russian grandmother's epic and brave rant. Okay, let's go see that. Is he gonna go and torture her to death? He's gonna put her in jail? Right? I'll tell him to go fuck himself. Grandma says. Good for her. Outrage in Russia as vodka prices skyrocket by more than 20%. Of all things, right? Like, they're upset about the alcohol, right? Because the Russians, they're all alcoholics, all of them. Not all, but most of them. Like, probably like 98% of them are alcoholics, right? Russian vodka enthusiasts are seething after the finance minister Ministry implemented a 17% price hike for a half-liter bottle on New Year's Day. Russia holds the title as the world's largest vodka producer, accounting for over 30% of global production. Domestic consumption makes up more than 90% of Russia-made vodka, making it one of the country's most beloved beverages. As of January 1st, a bottle will now set consumers back 349 rubles. I guess that's £2 up from two. I don't understand all this, right? This follows a 6.4% increase in June 2024, meaning that within the last 6 months, vodka prices have skyrocketed by an eye-watering 23.4%. The surge in vodka prices is just the latest financial blow for Russian consumers who are grappling with soaring costs for basic food staples like butter and potatoes. Inflation in Russia is hovering around 9.5%, prompting the central bank to hike interest rates to a record-breaking 21%. Other alcoholic beverages hit by price increases include brandy and cognac, with both spirits seeing a rise of approximately 17%. Smokers are also feeling the pinch, with the minimum price for a pack of 20 cigarettes climbing 5% to 135 rubles. The price hikes follow a bumper year for the retail alcohol market in Russia, which witnessed record sales. Sales of alcoholic beverages reached 184.2 million decaliters between January and October 2024. This represents the highest volume recorded since 2017, when regulators began tracking the data. Vodka remains the king of sales, with a modest uptick to 62.5 million decaliters over last year's figures. Observers linked the recent surge in liquor costs to the conflict in Ukraine, speculating that the Kremlin might be bolstering its military budget through the price hikes. Rewinding to 1981, in the twilight of the Brezhnev era, the USSR similarly escalated prices on alcohol and cigarettes amidst their engagement in Afghanistan. During that period, Russians expressed their discontent through a widely sung ditty, warning of potential unrest if the cost increases persisted. The song's lyrics warned, "Vodka became 7 and 8. We're drinking anyway. We won't give up. Tell Ilyich Lenin we can't handle 10, but if it becomes 25, then it's a revolution again." Jeez. Can you imagine? Putin's nightmare as 466 feet ship explodes in Mediterranean with mystery cargo? Oy vey. Dog owner warned over neurotic psychopath breed that should not exist. Okay. Wife watches beloved husband die in brutal shark attack on Egyptian holiday. What the hell? What am I reading? Okay. Do you want to see Okay, let's go read this, right? Sick dad's disturbing secret with daughter led to family of 7's Christmas murder. In a seemingly festive family photo, a sinister truth lurks beneath the surface, revealing a Christmas Day horror that would haunt the community for decades. A haunting Christmas family photograph conceals the grim truth of a father who committed an unthinkable act of murdering his entire family on Christmas Day. Charles Davis Lawson, a tobacco farmer, arranged for a studio portrait of his family during Christmas 1929 in Germantown, North Carolina, but his motives were far from festive. The photo features Lawson's children, Arthur 16 and Mary 17, alongside their parents. Mary is seen staring directly into the camera. Charlie is glancing to the left with an eerie grin, while Fanny is looking away, cradling their youngest, 4-month-old Mary Lou. The younger Lawsons, James 4, Maybelle 7, Raymond 2, and Carrie 12, are seated in front. On Christmas Day, 1929, the deranged patriarch carried out his horrific plan. Mary had begun baking a Christmas cake that morning at their family farm, located 200 kilometers northwest of Raleigh, the capital of North Carolina. Charles was discovered lurking behind the barn, armed with a loaded shotgun. He shot and killed his daughters before concealing their bodies in the barn. He then returned to the family home and murdered 37-year-old Fanny, followed by Mary and two of his sons, James and Raymond. Finally, he took the life of baby Mary Lou, leaving her with a fractured skull. 7 bodies were later discovered with arms crossed over their chests and rocks underneath their heads. But one family member survived, Arthur, the eldest son. He had been sent on an errand by his father the night before the killing. When he returned home, he raised the alarm. A search for Lawson began before a gunshot was heard from nearby woods, and his body was found along with letters he had written, with footprints circling a tree at the scene of his death. It seemed Lawson had been pacing before he killed himself. There was a genuinely sinister explanation behind the horrific massacre committed by Charlie Lawson. In 1990, a cousin of the Lawson children revealed a 6-year-old family secret that had never been told before. Stella Lawson Bowles said she had heard her mother and other women in the Lawson family discussing something Fanny had discovered not long before Christmas. Fanny had found out that there had been incest between her husband, Lawson, and her 17-year-old daughter, Mary. Just weeks before Christmas, a young girl named Marie revealed a shocking secret to her friend Ella Mae Johnson. She was pregnant, and the baby's father was her dad. Their neighbor said that Lawson had threatened his daughter if she spilled the beans about the abuse. That's why a lot of people who are abused, they will keep a secret because the perpetrator, the official ambassador of the mulatto race, the perpetrator will threaten with like murder, right? It's really scary. Following the horrific massacre at their residence, the house turned into a dreadful tourist spot. Visitors were drawn to the Christmas cake that Mary was preparing when the tragedy struck. In 1945, the only survivor, Arthur Lawson, tragically died in a car crash, leaving his wife and 4 children behind. What a nightmare. Why am I even reading this story? Like seriously. British woman and her fiancé mysteriously found dead in tourist villa in Vietnam. Why do they go to these places? You know what I'm saying? It's like, don't go there. Don't. Why would anybody go there? Okay, let's go to Fox. I guess everybody has their reasons, you know? Like, there's many people who love adventure. They love to see new places and new things. And I'm like, okay, so go on the computer and see it from there, right? Like, why do you have to go to Vietnam? Why are you going to places that have no law and order? Biden's 11th hour executive order that deals blow to Trump's promise to drill, baby, drill. Parting shot. Okay, let's go see what that's about. Okay, Biden issues sweeping offshore oil gas drilling ban in 625 million acres of federal...
Have you always wanted to be a great singer? Hey there, I'm Alexander Stewart, a singer here on YouTube.
Ahead of Trump's transition.
President Biden just announced a sweeping ban on oil and gas drilling across over 600 million acres of federal waters, which would be difficult for President...
By the way, it's not Biden who's doing all this. It's mostly his handlers.
Elect Trump to reverse.
The president writes, my decision reflects what coastal communities, businesses, and beachgoers have known for a long time, that drilling off these coasts could cause irreversible damage to places we hold dear and is unnecessary to meet our nation's energy needs. It is not worth the risk.
Taylor Riggs is the co-host of the Big Money Show on Fox Business, and she joins us now. Taylor, good morning to you. So the statement Todd should have read should have just said that this is intended to be a legacy move by me, and this is how he wants the climate change people to remember him by. But how will this end? What will the impact of this be?
You know, so unclear in terms of oil and gas drilling. He wants to ban it on the east part of the Gulf Coast, and really the big money that Trump's looking at in terms of leasing and oil drilling is central to west. So unclear about the actual impact, but I think to me this comes down to the principle of it. We had an election 2 months ago on this issue. Prices are too high. We need to drill. We need to bring down energy costs. That is exactly what everyone voted on.
She's very
and 2 months
pretty.
later, he still decides to make his legacy, maybe not climate change. I think legacy is high prices for everyone, because this is what this happens. My other point is we have the cleanest oil and gas.
She looks like she got a nose job. Sorry. Wait, go back. Wait, what just happened? Okay, what else is there? Let's go see what else there is. Biden swears at reporters in testy exchange after signing Social Security law. He swears at them? Why would he do that?
Have you always wanted to be a great singer? Hey there, I'm Alexander Stewart, a singer here on YouTube.
Well, President Biden is shocking members of the press. Just moments ago, he blasted former and future President Donald Trump at a White House event. Lucas Tomlinson was listening in on that. So, Lucas, you were there. What happened?
Well, Bill, good evening. Perhaps President Biden getting a jump on those legacy speeches he's expected to give, or a farewell address. He blasted President Trump, saying he's a threat to democracy. Here's what he said just moments ago. He also scolded some reporters.
Do you still believe he's a threat to democracy?
I think what he did was a genuine threat to democracy. By being the oldest president, I know more world leaders than any one of you ever met in your whole goddamn life.
So, Bill, just to reiterate there, President Biden calling former President Trump, President-elect Donald Trump, a genuine threat to democracy. And the question that was asked that produced that answer about him knowing more leaders than any of the reporters in their whole goddamn lives was about Trump as ending birthright citizenship. Biden called it an awful idea. Biden, as you see signing there, used this occasion late this afternoon to sign into law a measure to increase Social Security payments for current and former public employees who receive pensions as teachers, firefighters, police officers, and others.
Okay, whatever. I don't care. Okay, church struggles to retain congregation. Following Trump's election win, Trump final move to stop judges' unlawful sentencing ahead of inauguration. Okay. How deadly weather could play a crucial role in the historic day for Trump. Ooh, there's a storm coming. Professional organizers' dirty little secret to conquering clutter. Okay. Drones discovers secret tunnel under U.S. for drug and human trafficking. Oh my god. Harris is forced to preside over her own defeat in certifying Trump's historic win. Oy vey. Was ist das?
But we begin with Chad Pergram. He's live in the nation's capital with more on the top story. Speaker Johnson's narrow re-election and what it means going forward. Chad, good evening.
Trace, good evening. Mike Johnson needed an 11th hour assist. Johnson, that the incoming president called Self and Norman. Mr. Trump pushed them to support Johnson.
He just said Mike Johnson is the only one that's got the support among the body to become speaker. I said, Mike, are you going to give us specific examples of fighting for the things we mentioned? Will you give us your word? He said.
Okay, world. Israelis look to Trump amid debate on Gaza's future, going to enable things that were not possible before. Okay. Canada Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to announce resignation as early as Monday. What an embarrassment. North Korea carries out first missile launch test since Trump's election. Inside Israel's daring raid that destroyed Iran-funded underground missile factory in Syria. Oh, this is what's being talked about. Let's go see that. Okay, so this is what a lot of people are talking about, and basically the elite Israeli forces conducted a dramatic raid in Syria, destroying a secret underground long-range missile factory that also contained information about Syria's chemical weapons program in September, according to the Israel Defense Forces. The IDF first revealed the mission Thursday in a call with reporters. This is one of our most significant and complex special operations in recent years, even in this complex year and a half, IDF spokesperson Nadav Shoshani said. The IDF provided spectacular footage of the Israeli commandos during the daring mission, as well as the massive explosion of the subterranean complex after the troops had cleared it. The precision guide missiles factory or facility was dug into the side of a mountain underground, the IDF spokesperson said. Information about Syria's chemical weapons program was uncovered during the mission. I have seen some of them, notebooks and documents, and a lot of them contain very specific chemicals, Shoshani said. One of them that I saw was a chemical handbook that describes how to manufacture a missile at the end of the raid. The troops dismantled the facility, including the machines and the manufacturing, to ensure the safety of Israel. Assad's regime repeatedly used chemical weapons on his population during the nearly 14-year civil war that ripped apart the country. The U.S.-designated terrorist movement, Hezbollah, played a key role in aiding Assad's regime during the civil war. The factory was designated to manufacture between 150 to 350 missiles a year, including precision-guided missiles, PGM. According to the IDF commandos from the IDF Elite's Air Force unit, Shaldag, participated in the mission. So it was the Shaldag unit, and the IDF said 30 Syrian soldiers were killed during the operation. The IDF spokesperson told reporters the operation was aimed at an Iranian-funded precision-guided missile factory inside Syrian territory near the border with Lebanon. This facility was designed to manufacture hundreds of strategic missiles per year from start to finish for Hezbollah to use in their aerial attacks on Israel and for its Iranian axis in Syria. Because of the specific terrain and this facility being underground, we could not operate from the air area. Also on September 8 last year, 2024, special forces conducted a nighttime targeted raid on this facility. This raid involved over 100 soldiers. There were also dozens of aircraft, including helicopters and other types of aircraft. The forces were flown in by helicopters. Wow, okay, I salute our heroic fighters for the daring and successful operation deep in Syria. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in a statement, "This was one of the most important preventative operations that we have taken against the effort of the Iranian Axis to arm itself in order to attack us. It attests to our boldness and determination to take action everywhere to defend ourselves." After the devastation of October 7, 2023, Hamas invasion of Israel, which resulted in the murder of more than 1,200 people, including 40 Americans, Israel has faced multi-pronged attacks from Iran's regime. The main sponsor of Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and the toppled Bashar Assad regime in Syria. Amit Segal, chief political analyst of Israel Channel 12, told Fox News Digital, "The Israeli perspective for years was that Iran operates as an octopus in the Middle East, with the head being near the nuclear program in Tehran, and the arms being the conventional terrorist organizations surrounding Israel. Netanyahu's view was that the arms were meant to harass and occupy Israel, while the head raced towards nuclear capability, and therefore it was preferable to contain them and focus on the main threat. This perception shattered on October 7, when it became clear that the arms were not just a nuisance but an existential threat. The complex commando raid on the underground Syrian factory could also be a shot across the bow for the Islamic Republic of Iran's nuclear weapons facilities embedded in mountains. After a year and a quarter dedicated to severing the octopus's arms, Israel stands in 2025 at a historic crossroads for the confrontation Netanyahu has long sought, and for which history will judge him eliminating the nuclear threat once and for all. So is it basically eliminated? Is Iran's nuclear threat eliminated? The IDF spokesperson said constructions on the Syrian missile factory began at the end of 2017 and ended in 2021, when manufacturing machinery was sent from Iran to the site. Most of the components in the factory were sourced from Iran. From October 2023 to November 2024, Hezbollah launched over 17,000 projectiles towards Israel, killing dozens of Israelis. Can you imagine, 17,000 missiles over 1 year? And it killed, dozens of Israelis, but the rest of us are alive. That's miracles, right? The IDF spokesperson said exactly. So, and I'm witness to it myself because, I live here. And, every day there are sirens going off. And when I ran the last 2 times, they sent in hundreds of long-range missiles that were shot down in the air by Israel, right? I was sitting in the stairway and the ground was shaking, right? We're at war. But I'm pretty impressed with the way the state of Israel has been, and our IDF soldiers have been able to protect us. And it's so funny because today I was walking my dog, and on my way I saw all these young Israeli soldiers, right? They were all so hot and so handsome. But it's sad because I'm not 18 anymore, but seeing all of them together with their uniforms and their guns, it's like, it's just so sexy. You know what I'm saying? This society, this Israeli society, is very special, right? It's a society of fighters. Okay, so what do people say? Okay, let's go see if we can see videos of the raid, right? So without further ado, okay. Hold on. The IDF released this footage. Our soldiers are so brave. So basically, what they did here was dismantled the Shalak Special Forces raided and dismantled an underground compound for manufacturing precision missiles during operation inside Syria. So they had to know how to dismantle all the stuff, you know, with the chemicals and all that, apparently, from what I understand.
יש אירוע פתוח בסוריה, על פי תכנון אנחנו איתכם. יש לנו אישור שכל הכוח בידינו בדרך הבאה. מה שפירקתם שם היה עולה לנו בהרבה מאוד חיים של אזרחים ישראלים.
Wow. So he's saying what the soldiers did, they were basically, they saved a lot of, what they did there would in the future save Jewish people in Israel, right? Israeli citizens. Because those missiles that are created, which with chemicals can be used on us, right? Like, how deadly weather could play a crucial role in the historic day for Trump. Okay, so okay. Okay, so now we're gonna go and read the book of Salmon Rushdie, and just to try it out and see if it's any good, right? Okay. Let's just check that there's nothing new. Baruch Dynamis. Okay. Here we are, right? The satanic verses. So we'll read the first parts here, and we'll see if it's worth the read. And see if... Okay. So, okay. By Salmon Rushdie, the satanic verses. Okay, the satanic verses has all the excellences that made Midnight's Children a publishing event. An epic sweep and feel for the larger currents of history reminiscent of Tolstoy, a comic genius for idiosyncratic characterizations and polyphonic voices worthy of Dickens, together with the imaginative freedom, a fabulous characteristic of Latin American fiction, and its magical realism. The Satanic Verses is a wider-ranging novel. Not since Gravity's Rainbow has any novel so successfully captured the cosmopolitan texture of modern life. Finally, the Satanic Verses confronts the problem of religion and modern life in such a direct and profound way that it has been banned in India, Pakistan, South Africa, and all the Arab countries. If you want to find out why Rushdie is arguably the most talented and significant author writing in the English language today, by all means read this book. The Virginia Quarterly Review. So let's go and try to read it. Okay. So he wrote all these other books, right? By Salmon Rushdie. Grimless, he wrote fiction books. Grimless, Midnight's Children, Shame, Haroun and the Sea of Stories, East West, The Moor's Last Sigh, The Ground Beneath Her Feet, and Fury and Shalimar the Clown. And the non-fiction books are The Jaguar Smile, Imaginary Homelands, The Wizard of Oz. Really, he wrote The Wizard of Oz. Step Across this Line, and he wrote more stuff. Okay. So, The Satanic Verses is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are the products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual events, locales, or persons, living or dead, is entirely coincidental. Right. So that, a lot of people are discussing his book, right? And they're saying how the reason why it's coincidental is because he's not directly trying to say who he's talking about or whether he's talking about something real. He is basically doing it in a way where it's disguised as fiction, right? Okay. So there's that. And dedicated to the individual. Okay, Satan, being thus confined to a vagabond, wandering, unsettled condition, is without any certain abode, for though he has, in consequence of his angelic nature, a kind of empire in the liquid waste or air, yet this is certainly part of his punishment, that he is without any fixed place or space, allowing him to rest the sole of his foot upon. So, the contents of this book is the title page, the dedication. Did he dedicate it to his mother-in-law? It's hilarious. Okay. So, number 1. Chapter 1, right? To be born again. Saying Gabriel Farishta, tumbling from the heavens. First, let's check that. The title page. Okay. To be born again, think Gabriel Farishta, tumbling from the heavens. First you have to die, Hoji, Hoji, to land upon the bosomy earth. First one needs to fly, ta, taka, fun. How to ever smile again? If first you won't cry, how to win the darling's love, Mister, without a sigh, Baba. If you want to get born again, just before dawn, one winter's morning, New Year's Day or thereabouts, 2 real, full-grown, living men fell from a great height, 29,002 feet, towards the English Channel, without benefit of parachutes or wings, out of a clear sky. I tell you, you must die. I tell you. And thusly, and so beneath the moon of alabaster, until a loud cry crossed the night. To the devil with your tunes, the words hanging crystalline in the iced white night. In the movies, you only mimed to playback singers, so spare me these infernal noises now. Gabriel, the tuneless soloist, had been cavorting in moonlight as he sang his impromptu ghazal, swimming in air, butterfly stroke, breaststroke, bunching himself into a ball, spread-eagling himself against the almost infinity of the almost dawn, adopting heraldic postures, rampant, couchant, pitting levity against gravity, Now he rolled happily towards the sardonic voice. "Oh he, Salad Baba, it's you, too good, what ho, old chump." At which the other, a fastidious shadow falling headfirst in a grey suit, with all the jacket buttons done up, arms by his side, taking for granted the improbability of the bowler hat on his head, pulled the nickname hater's face. "Hey, Spoono," Gabriel yelled, eliciting a second inverted wince. "Proper London! Bye! Here we come. Those bastards down there won't know what hit them. Meteor or lightning or vengeance of God, out of thin ear. Baby, daram! Wham, nah? What an entrance, yar, I swear. Splat." Out of thin air, a big bang, followed by falling stars, a universal beginning, a miniature echo of the birth of time. The jumbo jet Boston, flight AI 420, blew apart without any warning, high above the great, rotting, beautiful, snow-white, illuminated city, mahogany Babylon, Alphaville. But Gabriel has already named it. I mustn't interfere. Proper London, capital of Velayat. Winked, blinked, nodded in the night, while at Himalayan height, a brief and premature sun burst into the powdery January air. A blip vanished from radar screens, and the thin air was full of bodies descending from the Everest of the catastrophe to the milky paleness of the sea. Who am I? Who else is there? The aircraft cracked in half. A seed pod giving up its spores, an egg yielding its mystery. Two actors prancing Gabriel and Botany, pursed Mr. Saladan Chamcha, fell like tidbits of tobacco from a broken old cigar. Above, behind, below them, in the void there hung reclining seats, stereophonic headsets, drinks, trolleys, motion discomfort receptacles, disembarkation cards, duty-free video games, braided caps, paper cups, Bland, he screamed do, many L and Kets, oxygen masks. Also, for there had been more than a few migrants aboard. Yes, quite a quantity of wives who had been grilled by reasonable doing their job officials about the length of and distinguishing moles upon their husbands' genitalia, a sufficiency of children upon whose legitimacy the British government had cast its ever reasonable doubts, mingling with the remnants of the plane, equally fragmented, equally absurd. There floated the debris of the soul, broken memories, sloughed off selves, severed mothers' tongues, violated privacies, untranslatable jokes, extinguished futures, lost loves, the forgotten meaning of hollow, booming words, land, belonging, home. Knocked a little silly by the blast, Gabriel and Saladin plummeted like bundles dropped by some carelessly open-beaked stork, and because Chamcha was going down head first, in the recommended position for babies entering the birth canal, he commenced to feel a low irritation at the other's refusal to fall in plain fashion. Saladin nose-dived, while Farishta embraced air, hugging it with its arms and legs, a flailing, overwrought actor without techniques of restraint. Below, cloud-covered, awaiting their entrance, the slow, congealed currents of the English sleeve, the appointed zone of their watery reincarnation. "Oh, my shoes are Japanese," Gabriel sang, translating the old song into English in semi-conscious deference to the uprushing host nation. "These trousers English, if you please. Oh, my head, red Russian hat. My heart's Indian, for all that." The clouds were bubbling up towards them, and perhaps it was on account of that great mystification of cumulus and cumulonimbus, the mighty rolling thunderheads standing like hammers in the dawn. Or perhaps it was the singing, the one busy performing, the other booing the performance, or their blast delirium that sparred them foreknowledge of the imminent. But for whatever reason, the two men, Gabriel Saladin, Farishta Chamcha, condemned to this endless, but also ending, angelic, devilish fall, did not become aware of the moment at which the process of their transmutation began. Mutation? Yes, sir, but not random. Up there in airspace, in that soft, imperceptible field, which had been made possible by the century, and which thereafter made the century possible, becoming one of its defining locations, the place of movement and of war, the planet's shrinker and power vacuum, most insecure and transitory of zones, illusory, discontinuous, metamorphic, because when you throw everything up in the air, anything becomes possible. Way up there, at any rate, changes took place in delirious actors that would have gladdened the heart of old Mr. Lamarck. Under extreme environmental pressure, characteristics were acquired. What characteristics? Which? Slow down. You think creation happens in a rush? So then neither does revelation. Take a look at the pair of them. Notice anything unusual? Just two brown men, falling hard. Nothing so new about that, you may think. Climbed too high, got above themselves, flew too close to the sun? Is that it? That's not it. Listen. Mr. Saladin Chamcha, appalled by the noises emanating from Gabriel's Farishta's mouth, fought back with verses of his own. What Farishta heard, wafting across the improbable night sky, was an old song, too. Lyrics by Mr. James Thomson, 1700 to 1748. At heaven's command, Chamcha caroled through lips, turned jingoistically red, white, blue by the cold. A ruse from out azure mine. Main Farishta, horrified, sang louder and louder of Japanese shoes, Russian hats, inviolably sublime, padding top, 1px, margin top, 09em, margin right, 09em, Sev young girl, G continental hearts, but could not still Saladin's wild recital. And guardian angels sung the strain. Let's face it, it was impossible for them to have heard one another, much less conversed, and also competed thus in song, accelerating towards the planet, atmosphere roaring around them. How could they? But let's face this too, they did. Down, down, they hurtled, and the winter cold frosting their eyelashes and threatening to freeze their hearts was on the point of waking them from the delirious daydream. They were about to become aware of the miracle of singing, the rain of limbs and babies of which they were a part, and the terror of the destiny rushing at them from below. When they hit, were drenched and instantly iced by the degree zero boiling of the clouds. I need to. Let's see if we can see if this book is readable. Basically, this guy, Salmon Rushdie, he got stabbed in the eye, and he survived because basically his book is banned because it makes fun of Islam, even though it's not outwardly making fun, right? Okay. There were in what appeared to be a long vertical tunnel. Chamcha, prim, rigid, and still upside down, saw Gabriel Farishta in his purple bush shirt come swimming towards him across that cloud-walled funnel, and would have shouted, "Keep away! Get away from me!" except that something prevented him, the beginning of a little fluttery, screamy thing in his intestines. So instead of uttering words of rejection, he opened his arms, and Farishta swam into them until they were embracing head to tail, and the force of their collision sent them tumbling end over end, performing their geminate cartwheels all the way down and along the hole that went to Wonderland. While pushing their way out of the white came a succession of cloud forms, ceaselessly metamorphosing, gods into bulls, women into spiders, men into wolves, hybrid cloud creatures pressed in upon them, gigantic flowers with human breasts dangling from fleshy stalks, winged cats, centaurs, and Chamcha, in his semi-consciousness, was seized by the notion that he too had acquired the quality of cloudiness, becoming metamorphic, hybrid, as if he were growing into the person whose head nestled down between his legs, and whose legs were wrapped around his long, patrician neck. This person had, however, no time for such high falutions, was indeed incapable of faluting at all, having just seen, emerging from the swirl of cloud, the figure of a glamorous woman of a certain age, wearing a brocade sari in green and gold, with a diamond in her nose and lacquer defending her high coiled hair against the pressure of the wind at these altitudes, as she sat equably upon a flying carpet. Rekha merchant, Gabriel greeted her. You couldn't find your way to heaven, or what? Insensitive words to speak to a dead woman, but his concussed, plummeting condition may be offered in mitigation. Chamcha, clutching his legs, made an uncomprehending query. What the hell? You don't see her? Gabriel shouted. You don't see her goddamn Bokhara rug? No, Gabriel. Her voice whispered in his ears. Don't expect him to confirm. I am strictly for your eyes only. Maybe you are going crazy. What do you think, you Namakul, you piece of pig excrement? My love, with death comes honesty, my beloved, so I can call you by your true names. Cloudy Rekha murmured sour things. But Gabriel cried again in Chamcha, Spoono, you see her or you don't? Saladin Chamcha saw nothing, heard nothing, said nothing. Gabriel faced her alone. You shouldn't have done it, he admonished her. No, sir. A sin, a such much thing. Oh, you can lecture me now, she laughed. You are the one with the high moral tone. That's a good one. It was you who left me, her voice and burst into tears. Fee minded his ear, seeming to nibble at the lobe. It was you, O moon of my delight, who hid behind a cloud, and I, in darkness, blinded, lost for love. He became afraid. What do you want? No, don't tell, just go. When you were sick, I could not see you. In case of scandal, you knew I could not. That I stayed away for your sake, but afterwards you used it as your excuse to leave, your cloud to hide behind. That, and also her, the ice woman, bastard. Now that I am dead, I have forgotten how to forgive. I curse you, my Gabriel. May your life be hell. Hell, because that's where you sent me. Damn you. Where you came from, devil. Where you're going, sucker. Enjoy the bloody trip. Rekha cursed. And after that, verses in a language he did not understand, all harshness and sibilance, in which he thought he made out, but maybe not. The repeated name, Al-Lat. He clutched at Chamcha. They burst through the bottom of the clouds. Speed, the sensation of speed, returning, whistling its fearful note. The roof of a cloud fled upwards. The water floor zoomed closer, their eyes opened. A scream. That same scream that had fluttered in his guts when Gabriel swam across the sky, burst from Chamcha's lips. A shaft of sunlight pierced his open mouth and set it free, but they had fallen through the transformations of the clouds, Chamcha and Farishta, and there was a fluidity and indistinctness at the edges of them. And as the sunlight hit Chamcha, it released more than noise. Fly, Chamcha shrieked at Gabriel. Start flying now, and added, without knowing its source, the second command, and sing. How does newness come into the world? How is it born? Out of fusions, translations, conjoining, is it made? How does it survive, extreme and dangerous as it is? What comprises, what deals, what betrays of its secret nature must it make to stave off the wrecking crew, the exterminating angel, the guillotine? Is birth always a fall? Do angels have wings? Can men fly? I feel like the way it's written in this book, it's a puzzle. It's not very clear, and it's pretty much a puzzle of different things happening, but it's all in the context of two men who are falling out of the sky, right? And yeah, so that's from what I understand so far, right? That's what I understand so far. Okay, so When Mr. Saladin Shamsha fell out of the clouds over the English Channel, he felt his heart being gripped by a force so implacable that he understood it was impossible for him to die. Afterwards, when his feet were once more firmly planted on the ground, he would begin to doubt this, to ascribe the implausibilities of his transit to the scrambling of his perceptions by the blast, and to attribute his survival, his and Gabriel's, to blind, dumb luck. But at the time he had no doubts. What had taken him over was the will to live, unadulterated, irresistible, pure, and the first thing it did was to inform him that it wanted nothing to do with his pathetic personality, that half-reconstructed affair of mimicry and voices. It intended to bypass all that, and he found himself surrender to it, yes, go on as if he were a bystander in his own mind, in his own body, because it began in the very center of his body, and spread outwards, turning his blood to iron, changing his flesh to steel, except that it also felt like a fist that enveloped him from outside, holding him in a way that was both unbearably tight and intolerably gentle, until finally it had conquered him totally and could work his mouth, his fingers, whatever it chose, and once it was sure of its dominion, it spread outward from his body and grabbed Gabriel Farista by the balls. "Fly!" it commanded Gabriel. "Sing!" Shamsha held on to Gabriel while the other began, slowly at first, and then with increasing rapiditiram. Padding top, 1 px, margin top, 09 em, margin right, 09 em. Sev young girl, G and force to flap his arms. Harder and harder he flapped, and as he flapped a song burst out of him, and like the song of a spectre of Rekha merchant, it was sung in a language he did not know, to a tune he had never heard. Gabriel never repudiated the miracle, unlike Shamsha, who tried to reason it out of existence. He never stopped saying that the ghazal had been celestial, that without the song the flapping would have been for nothing, and without the flapping it was a sure thing that they would have hit the waves like rocks, or what, and simply burst into pieces in making contact with the taut drum of the sea, whereas instead they began to slow down. The more emphatically Gabriel flapped and sang and flapped, the more pronounced the deceleration, until finally the two of them were floating down to the channel like scraps of paper in a breeze. They were the only survivors of the wreck, the only ones who fell from Boston and lived. They were found washed up on a beach. The more valuable of the two, the one in the purple shirt, swore in his wild ramblings that they had walked upon the water, that the waves had borne them gently into the shore. But the other, to whose head a soggy bowler hat clung as if by magic, denied this. "God, we are lucky," he said. "How lucky can you get?" I know the truth, obviously. I watched the whole thing. As to omnipresence and potence, I'm making no claims at present. But I can manage this much, I hope. Shamsha willed it, and Farista did what was willed. Which was the miracle worker? Of what type? Angelic? Satanic? Was Farista's song? Who am I? Let's put it this way. Who has the best tunes? These were the first words. Gibber har set, UTF/8. Right, and then it goes on to talk about, this is the second chapter. It's a very, I feel like this is a very hard book to read. It's called The Satanic Verses, and I don't know why why it's such a hard book to read, to understand, right? I don't know if people read this book, how they were able to follow, maybe they're smarter than me or something, but, right, I don't understand it, so, and, let me write, and the Salmon Rushdie, what do you call it? Satanic Verses. Satanic Verses. Right. Let's make it first part. So, Jewish civilians murdered in West Bank by fascists. Okay. By Salmon Rushdie, Satanic versus Part 1. Right. Okay. That's that. So, okay, so basically, yeah. So, I'm just still debating whether I should read that book here or my other channel. I don't think most people can follow or anybody would be interested in it, right? So, anyway. That's the news of January 6, 2025. And God avenged the blood of those who were murdered by Islamic Nazis. And that's that, right? Anyway, feel free, anybody that ever watches this, which I doubt people do, feel free to subscribe or to unsubscribe. Feel free to like or not to like. Feel free to comment. Give your opinion. Hi, Raspberry. I didn't notice that she's looking at me. Hey, baby. So cute. Baby.